Next up, taking a peek at the steering wheel for the vehicle. So really nice look. It's got a great feel overall, but let's dive into it. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about all the different buttons and things like that. So first thing to point out, the steering wheel inside of the GR86 is going to be a manual adjust just by our left knee. So there's a little release there, and it is a telescoping steering wheel all at the same time. So just adjust as necessary. Now the stick on the left-hand side is obviously going to be for our blinkers. We can flash our high beams, while the stick on the right-hand side is going to be for our windshield wipers. Now this one does have paddle shifters because it is the 6-speed automatic transmission. We do have the option for the 6-speed manual transmission instead, and then if we had that, we obviously just wouldn't have the paddle shifters here. But very straightforward all around the board. One nice thing, right on the very bottom of the steering wheel, we also have this little GR badge, so it does look fairly sharp. But let's dive into it and I'll teach you everything you need to know about this. So starting off with the pad along the left-hand side, we do have buttons that we can push in order to either answer or hang up on a phone call if our phone is connected. We can also change between our different audio sources there. So AM, FM, Sirius XM, things like that, we can kind of adjust out as necessary. But tons of different options. So we can kind of look through, we've got our different sources and things like that we're kind of jumping between, as you can see there. So AM, FM, Sirius XM. The pad on this side, so this little one there, so we can do a few different things. So we'd be able to change between all of our different songs or presets and things like that. So you can see our presets kind of going crazy. If we do a press and hold, we can also seek out that way. So seeking just kind of single button at a time, we do have to do a little bit of a longer press and hold in order to be able to seek out that way, but it's essentially just one channel jump at a time as we go. So very straightforward. And then we can either increase or decrease the volume there on top of that. So really, really nice. We'll get to the audio test there. And actually, you know what? We'll do the audio test right now. So that is respectable audio. The sound is fantastic. The audio is amazing on this. I don't know if you noticed it there, but as we were kind of playing and adjusting the audio, you can see that it does pop up in the cluster screen. So just along the left-hand side there. It is interesting because it does pull up in the media screen as well, but it would be nice if that kind of either was a little bit smaller, but it still is nice. And then the pad on the right-hand side, we've got a series of other buttons. So the buttons along the side here are going to let us control that screen there. We'll get to that one in a moment. Our basic back button, our OK button in the middle, and then we've also got our voice command prompt. So by pushing that button there, you can see we can do things like we can start playing music if we want to. Oh, it's kind of neat. We can go through and see everything there. So we can look at different options for music. So changing songs, radio stations, we can launch different apps and things like that. We can look at weather, etc. So it is kind of nice that we've got that flexibility. And then just button press is like, no, okay, so we can't cancel it out by button pressing again. We just have to press the little X on the screen. But very straightforward, and it is nice. It's a fairly smart voice assistant. But let's go through the little cluster screen there. So along the very bottom, we can just kind of make it out, but we do have our trip counter with our current mileage that we're driving there. And we can also see, we've got our battery percentage. So as we kind of go up and down, we've got different screens that are available. In order to reset, all we're gonna do is just do a quick press and hold in the middle there. And as you can see there, so that's going to reset everything for us. So very straightforward to reset. We can see what tire pressure we currently have for all of our wheels. And moving off to the side, that gets us into our brake acceleration, things like that. So we can kind of see what's going on. You see give it a little bit of gas. You can see what's happening with the accelerator there. And then you can also see, so we've got our tachometer and our speedometer kind of built in. So we've got our speedometer right in the middle, but we've got our tachometer right along the outside there. So it is kind of nice and it's fully digital. So it looks fairly good. Along the side, we can see what's currently playing. So currently have Sirius XM going. Moving out, we also do have all of our drive systems there. So we've got our base cruise control, things like that, so we can toggle things on and off as we go from there. Our SRH is going to be the steering headlight setting. So that's going to be essentially dynamic bending for the headlamps as we start to drive around. We've also got our lane distance warning, so our lane departure warning. So as we get out of our lane, it's going to let us know, and we can easily toggle any of these safety settings on and off. And then with our PCB setting on top of that, so it's just an added safety setting. So we've got a series of different ones that are available there. BSD is going to be our blind spot detection system. So all of these things we do have the flexibility of toggling on off. So if you don't care about these added safety settings, all we have to do, just easily flip them on off as necessary. But some of these ones are pretty nice, like our blind spot detection, letting us know if anybody's under the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. And it's just a non-obtrusive light that's going to show up. So if we kind of hop out to the side there, you can kind of see as we kind of adjust that setting. So those are going to highlight orange on both the driver passenger side as we go. The options that we're going to get here will depend on whether we have the automatic or the manual transmission. As inside of the automatic version of the vehicle, we do have the GR86 safety package, and that's going to give us some things that we just won't find in the manual transmission whatsoever. But moving up to the side from there, we've also got our Eyesight, and we've got a few different options available there. So our drive lane. Different sounds, which is kind of neat. We've got our starting alert, our acceleration level. Ooh, what's that? Different options there. Ooh, okay, cool. Different acceleration sounds. That's kind of neat. And back from there, I think that's it. Start alert, acquisition sound, etc. So that's essentially borrowed from Subaru. We've got our units there, so we can change out kilometers, miles, things like that. We've got different warning volumes that are available, so as we start to veer over without signaling, what type of volume are we getting? Different screen settings. Do we want to have our startup screen on or off? We've also got our rev. So what's going to happen there is we get our indicator once we hit that RPM. So if we're using the paddle shifters in order to be able to shift out gears, once we hit that max RPM setting, it's going to let us know. We've got a buzzer that'll come on top of that. So you heard that? So once we hit that RPM shift point, it's going to let us know that we should be adjusting gears as necessary. And that's the same way for the 6-speed on top of that. And I think, well, we've got some other car settings that are on top of that. Keyless entry is fantastic. So with the keyless entry, obviously with our fob itself, very straightforward, but we've got a series of different options that are available on the fob. So we've got our basic unlock button, lock button, etc. We've got our trunk release, and then our horn or panic alarm button. There also is an emergency access key in here, so just along the very back side, we can push that in order to get to that emergency access key. So very straightforward there. And from here, so keyless entry gives us a few options. So whether we get a signal as we go through the keyless entry system, do we want our hazard lights flashing as we're going through? Do we want to have the driver door become unlocked or all doors become unlocked? So in this part, it's just going to be the driver passenger doors. And that's going to be the basics for our keyless entry. Moving back, our defogger. Do we want to have the defogger running automatically or continuously or just for 15 minutes as the car starts? Our interior lighting, do we want to have that on for 7.5, 15, or 30 seconds? We've got some options for our sensors. So do we want to have it linked with our wipers on top of that for the front? Our welcome lighting on the outside of the vehicle as we approach. Do we want to have it coming on during certain times as we approach or leave? We've also got our one-touch lane change system. That's kind of neat. So many different options here. And moving back again, we've got any sort of notifications that are available. So if there's things like updates and things like that available, it'll let us know. And that's really it. Yeah, so that is going to be it. That's nice and simple, nice and basic. All of the basic things that we need inside of it with driver assistance settings, some base car screen settings and things like that. And then as I mentioned, so you can see there, we have our tachometer and speedometer built in. Whether or not our seatbelt's currently on, we can see if we've got our parking brake going. And then off to the right-hand side, we also do have our fuel levels, and we've also got the current temperature of the engine. We've got our outside, here, let me zoom you in a tiny bit. That'll make it a bit easier. In and up, and there you go. So you can see there we've got our outside temperature, we've got the current time, we've got our engine temperature, and then our current fuel level. So very straightforward there. And then down a little bit, we've got one more stick to look at. And this one here is going to be for our cruise control. So you can kind of see the stick there. So we've got 3 total sticks. The one on the right-hand side on the bottom is going to be for our cruise control. So we can easily set, turn on, turn off as necessary there. So we can see as we push that, we get another little indicator in the screen letting us know that the system itself is activated. And then we've got our distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us for the cruise control system. So it is very straightforward to use, easily just toggling on off. We can increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time, and then cancel by pushing down on that stick. But that's everything you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Toyota GR86.